And we're back in my basement dungeon gym like we never left. Welcome to the Confessions of a Not So Dangerous Mind podcast. I'd like to thank you all for spending some of your Sunday morning here with me in New York. But once again, we're going to skip past all that promotional jazz and get right to the guts of the episode. We've got a movie anniversary. This could easily be considered a guilty pleasure movie because the movie in question is just not good. You want it to be good. It's not good, but it is highly entertaining, and it contains a supporting performance from somebody who would go on to be as big a star as the two principals in this film, and it contains a notorious figure. Dare I say a later era O.J. Simpson kind of a situation. On this day, 1995, the movie Money Train opened in theaters. Now, I got in on this one on the proverbial ground floor. This was a movie that had been teased for a number of months. We saw previews, and there were featurettes on HBO and Cinemax showing how they did some of the stunt work, and they kind of puffed up one of the main stars, Wesley Snipes, the fact that Wesley was a phenomenal athlete and did a lot of his own stunts. There was a stunt, like a subway train where he did a stunt he wasn't supposed to, a little Tom Cruise before Tom Cruise, a little Clint Eastwood decades after Clint Eastwood jumped off a train trestle. And the studio said to Don Siegel, a filmmaker, and Dirty Harry, you can't let our star do this stunt. And Clint Eastwood Jr. said, go fuck yourselves, go fuck yourselves. I'm doing the stunt, so go fuck yourselves. But Wesley did a stunt they didn't want him to do. He could have been in danger, but it showed how committed he was to the bit. So Money Train was a film that I had been excited to see. The trailer looked good. You had big stars, Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes, together again 3 years after the significant success of a fantastic, one of the best sports comedies, you could argue one of the best sports films ever made, in 1992's White Men Can't Jump. But in that movie, arguably, Rosie Perez steals the film right out from under the two stars. And Rosie Perez, in a different year, could have easily gotten a Best Supporting Actress nomination. Now, the award ended up going to, in a surprise, Marissa Tomei for My Biological Clock is Ticking Like That. Does she say that or this? But you could have easily nominated Rosie Perez for White Men Can't Jump because she is phenomenal in that film. She's hysterically funny, but her character of Gloria is very canny, and she helps to make the movie as memorable as it is. But now it's 3.5 years later. We're in the fall of 1995. I am finishing my second year at New York University Film School. And I was going to the movies at least once a week while studying films, while writing papers, while taking the occasional tests, and trying to show off my savant brain whenever I could in class to try to impress the professors, the teaching assistants. The rest of my life was a shambles, but academically, I was a star. I was pretty good, no doubt, no joke and whatever. I'm a Gen Xer, I'm supposed to make fun of everything, and academia is bullshit. It's all bullshit. My diploma that I was going to get is bullshit, but I took this seriously because my father paid out of pocket, right? We love that phrase, paid out of pocket for my college. Did 21-year-old me really understand how fortunate he was that he didn't have to take out student loans 30 years ago? Well, I kind of understood, but because I hadn't lived and worried about, can I make this payment or should I put that? I didn't have to worry about any of that shit. I just went to school. I drove to the city. Some days I took the train, not the money train. So you understand why this movie was made. You wanted to pair Wesley and Woody, and well, let's not do another sports movie. Let's try something else. And in this film, they play a pair of transit cops. The dynamic between them, they're foster brothers in the world of the film, and you get a lot of laughs, how could they be brothers? And then it's very on the nose. It's not really that funny, the way they keep explaining, no, actually we're foster brothers. Say, bro, it's fine, But they're transit cops. The thing that the first problem is, they use a very similar dynamic to their kind of contentious friendship in White Men Can't Jump, where Woody Harrelson's character in that film skill-wise, is a better basketball player than Wesley Snipes is Sidney Dean, Billy Hoyle's Sidney Dean. But he doesn't quite have the athleticism, and there's a lot of jokes, a little racial politics going on, and all of this sort of stuff, which works within the context of the film. The movie is not really particularly controversial. It gets a lot of laughs, as I said. But where I feel this film first aired is the dynamic is too similar between the guys in this film as the other film. And Woody's character in White Men Can't Jump, all he's good at is playing basketball. The rest of his life is a train wreck. Pun intended. But the rest of his life is a train wreck. He's a compulsive gambler. He owes money to the wrong kind of people. And, there's a side story that keeps threatening to get more serious in White Men Can't Jump. And Wesley Sidney Dean is always trying to pull Billy Ho. He's always trying to pull Billy Ho, get him off the ledge. I need this guy. We gotta stop fucking around here. This is serious business. We're all trying to improve our standing. We can't make stupid mistakes like making crazy bets, even in the context of against one another. Well, this movie has Woody Harrelson's character of Charlie. He's also a train wreck. He may not be exactly the same kind of disaster on a personal level, but the relationship is too similar. A lot of this movie is Wesley ripping on Charlie, the character of Charlie. Wesley's character's name is John, but he's ragging on him and ripping on him, and it feels similar, but it doesn't feel fresh anymore. It doesn't really work that well. So you have another character played by, I mentioned O.J. Simpson. It's not played by O.J. Simpson. The O.J. trial had already ended when this movie came out, the criminal trial. We want to talk about a particular time in society and in life where everybody was talking about the exact same thing. It was the O.J. Simpson criminal trial, which had just ended maybe a month before this movie came out. And so in this movie, as the kind of head of I guess he's the guy who was in the city who was responsible for the so-called money train. This was how when people were often still getting paid by cash, or they had to make sure they had cleared funds in the bank. I don't really remember the exact mechanics of it. This is not something that would exist now, a train that actually is carrying cash. I mean, it seems a little stupid. But the character responsible for that is played by the very notorious actor who had been in Cold Blood 3 decades prior, Robert Blake. Now, Robert Blake, a very talented actor. David Lynch used him in Lost Highway. A couple of years later, he probably got this role got Lost Highway because of what he does in Money Train. But he is such an unlikable character. It makes us root for Woody Harrelson more, even though Woody's character needs to be put into timeout. So you have this strange dynamic between the Foster brothers. They're both transit cops. One guy on the straight and narrow in Wesley, and one guy is just all fucked up in Woody's character of Charlie. But then we meet someone else, and the someone else that I tease is played by Jennifer Lopez in her film debut. And if you go back and you read contemporary reviews from when this film was released, critics mostly trashed it. And I remember being really disappointed when I saw it was screened for critics, but none of the New York papers even gave the film a lukewarm endorsement. They were all saying, this movie is not worth it. It's all over the place. The byplay between the guys is nothing like in White Men Can't Jump. But we may have a new star, because this young woman, this young actress, Jennifer Lopez, there's something with her. You can see it. She's got a future. Almost everyone who mentioned her said something to that effect. Not that she was Rosie Perez in White Men Can't Jump or Marissa Tomei in My Cousin Vinny, but she had a different kind of energy. There was something that she was doing on screen that was very almost wholesome, but she just seemed like a different type of a performer. Her timing was a little bit different, and I mentioned a concept that is, sometimes you have a movie where one person is playing the material differently than the rest of the cast. Usually it's not good. Like, for example, in my opinion, American Beauty is one of the most overrated films of the last 30 years. It's good, but the level of praise it received, I watched the movie once in theaters. I was not blown away, and I walked out of the theater shaking my head, wondering How could Steven Spielberg have said this is the best American film in decades? Which movie did he watch? Why didn't I get to watch that movie? I don't know. But in that film, it's supposed to be, I think, like a black comedy, and only Annette Bening is playing the material like it's a black comedy. Everybody else is treating it like it's a fucking Bergman film. Like it's The Seventh Seal or The Virgin Spring. What are we doing here? In Money Train, Wesley and Woody are joking around too much. This is not really a comedy. This is like a cop thriller. And they're clowning and joking around. And there's a famous moment in the trailer played entirely for laughs, where Wesley Snipes' character of John shows up just as Woody Harrelson is going to be dropped off a fucking building because he has a lot of gambling debts. And Wesley's character, hey guys, hold on. How much does he owe? And he thinks he owes like $5,000. They're like, oh, he owes $100,000. And Wesley goes, drop him. That's supposed to be funny? But in the world of a cop thriller, that's not funny. This is not that movie. Jennifer Lopez's character of Grace, she got the memo. J-Lo, who was just Jennifer Lopez or Jenny from the Block at the time, she plays the material as if this is the film it actually is, which is a serious movie, or at least it's supposed to. It's not really that serious. But the story itself purports to be serious. You have a guy trying to. Unfortunately, there were copycat crimes. The movie, it seems to be setting up almost a bit of a serial, not serial killer, but a serial, somebody who's trying to set fire to token booths in the subway system. You want to talk about a bad idea to put in a movie because there was a copycat crime and someone was very seriously injured and got burned. So you have this guy who is setting fire to subway token booths in the world of the movie. Jennifer Lopez is playing the material for what it is, which is, this is serious shit. If this happened in real life, we wouldn't be joking around, we wouldn't be clowning, and I certainly wouldn't be telling a couple of degenerate gamblers or gambling kingpins to drop my foster brother. I'm going to say, put him down or I'm going to put 5 bullets in you, fuckhead. He's not going to say drop him. So Jennifer Lopez, who also plays a transit cop, she is treating this as if it's a drama, a dramatic thriller, a cop thriller. She is not playing the material for laughs, as Wesley and Woody are, and the way they try to get the better of Robert Blake's kind of, I don't even want to say wrong-headed commanding officer. The guy's just an asshole. We're supposed to root for Woody as much of a jokey as he is, as messed up as he is, because Robert Blake's character just keeps fucking with him and keeps trying to push him down. So unlike White Men Can't Jump, because White Men Can't Jump, it's really a story of trying to achieve something that the guys are just trying to better their standing. Woody Harrelson someday hopes to marry Gloria. He needs to get into a better financial situation. And Wesley's Sidney Dean wants to move from the little crappy apartment that he and his wife, played very well by Tyra Farrell in the world of the film, where they're trying to advance themselves. Because Wesley has a little bit of a side business with real estate, and he's clearly very clever, intelligent, and he's the sort of person who is thorough. And you can see that he's moving in the right direction, and he's supposed to still be a very young man, presumably in his early 30s. But Woody's character in that film, he's nowhere near as effed up as character Charlie in Money Train. So the plot angle of the person setting fire to the token booths, it doesn't really go anywhere. And this is not a film such as Malice from 2 years earlier, where that movie deliberately does a misdirection in the manner, and please, I'm not saying it's the same movie, but in the manner of Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, where we think we're getting one film, but we're getting something else. In the movie Malice, it appears to be setting up that this is a story about a serial killer, and Nicole Kidman, Alec Baldwin, and Bill Pullman are going to have to figure out who it is. Maybe it's one of them. No, it's not that movie. So this film appears to be setting up that this token booth killer, or whatever the hell you want to call him, that's going to be the main thread of the story, and then it gets settled, I don't know, maybe 40 minutes into the movie. This film is about the character of Charlie spiraling while simultaneously trying to romance Jennifer Lopez's Grace Santiago. Great name. And the smile, Jennifer Lopez, but the fact that the movie actually takes her character seriously, unlike the two guys, and the Robert Blake character, where it's basically Kaladin Hockley in Titanic. This is a mustache-twirling performance, and Robert Blake, as a younger actor, was not known as an over-actor, but in this movie, man, he's chewing it up. It might as well be James Woods in The Specialist screaming about how he's going to close Sylvester Stallone's heart in my hand. I'm going to close your heart in my hand. There are very few actors that could believably say a line like that and not have us laughing. 30 years ago, James Woods, he could do it. He did it. Blow up the bomb disposal unit. Nice going, Ray. So Money Train is a film that I left the theater. I was not that disappointed because I expected that it was going to suck. Newsday giving it 1.5. The Daily News giving it 1.5. I think the Post gave it 2. And nobody said, wow, what a movie. It was like a series of disappointments from the local critics. And at that particular juncture in history, I was only on the internet when I was at school. I didn't have internet at home. Dial-up existed, but at home we just didn't have it. So if I wanted to do the internet, it had to be at the Bobst Library at school, and I didn't. I was very comfortable just going into supermarkets and checking out the pages of the local newspapers. And nobody at Stop and Shop ever told me I couldn't do that. True story. There was a newsstand, a big newsstand and magazine rack kind of place at Penn Station, right where the Long Island Railroad was. There's still one of them there now, but it's completely different now that we're in the handheld where all of the information is at the touch of a button in your hand. But back then, I would go into those places, but this one place in particular, and I would just try to check out, maybe there'll be a movie review, maybe I'll check out The Village Voice, or, Time Out New York, whatever it is. But they had people there, they had spotters there, making sure that no one did exactly what I'm talking about. They didn't even want you cracking something open. Either buy it or get the fuck out. They didn't say that, but that was the idea. And I can still hear it. It's like there was this one guy, his whole job in that newsstand was to make sure that people didn't even look. If you want something, buy it. I can still hear the guy barking at me, no reading. No what? Again, Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder, go fuck yourself. Hey, I got to decide if I'm going to buy this or not. Knock it off. I was that kind of kid. It's like, who the fuck are you yelling? What are you doing? But this movie really frustrated me because you could see the idea was okay. The angle with the guy setting fire to the token booth, they didn't need that in this movie because it wants to be a funnier film than it is. But I mentioned how the character of Grace Santiago is taken seriously. Part of that is the way the character is in the script. But the other part is the kind of vibrance and freshness that Jennifer Lopez brings to the role. She's just a cop trying to do her job. And I don't think she's even supposed to be a rookie cop, but the guys in the movie, Charlie and John, they're meeting her for the first time. And not surprisingly, she's gorgeous, and they're into her. And then there's the slightest little tease. We could get a little Jules and Jim, Francois Truffaut somewhere, I'm sure, saw this movie and got a kick out of it. But it looks like it might be going into a little bit of a threesome kind of an angle. This isn't the movie where they would do that literally. But the idea of the woman juggling the two guys. But the reality is that Woody's character is so messed up. It's not viable. And there is definitely chemistry between Wesley and Jen in the world of the film, and in real life, they look like they could have been a couple. The pairing just doesn't really work with Woody Harrelson. But a big part of Woody's performance is good. It's a very skillful performance. He gets to give more of a performance, and we kind of feel his character, his spiral, and his kind of disappointment with his own life, and he wants to do something good. It's not really anything good, but he wants to do something good to justify his existence and the fact that he keeps getting screwed over. So the title is not just the idea that they are guarding this particular train that's transporting all of this dough from one end of the city to the other. It's the fact that Woody's character decides he's gonna boost it. He's gonna rob it. And how is he going to do that and not get caught when it seems that a lot of people know what he is planning? And the scenes with that are very well shot. Was it John Badham who directed this? I don't think it was John Badham. There are certain filmmakers who made similar kinds of films. I don't think it was Badham. And it wasn't Harold Becker who did the aforementioned Malice, but it was a filmmaker who I was familiar with. And it's funny, I can't remember the name of the filmmaker, but the scenes are very well staged. And the effects work, like the kind of practical effects, are very well done. And the stunt work, in part because of Wesley being able to do a lot of stuff on his own, the stunt work is very good. And there's some cool editing in the sequence where we think Woody Harrelson's character is going to, like he's about to try to rob this train. And then that was another thing in the trailer. None of this is like spoilers. You watch the trailer right now where Wesley keeps saying, we're not going to rob the money train. And Woody's like, we could do this. And Wesley, no. He just keeps trying to shut him up. So Money Train was not a box office success. If it had been a smaller budget in the manner of, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, Passenger 57 didn't necessarily have an enormous box office gross, but the film was produced and marketed for under 20 million, and therefore grossing 60. Hey, good work. That's a hit. This movie grossed about 70 to 75, but the budget and the marketing was close to 70. It was a bomb. And the critical reviews definitely hurt this film, but not so much the critics. Word of mouth wasn't that good. People were asking me, hey, do you think Money Train is worth seeing? I mean, I could have lied and said, oh yeah, for sure. But I said, the movie's not good. It's reasonably entertaining. It's a kind of fun way to pass an hour and 40, but it's just stupido. There was a better movie in there, and they just didn't find it. And it's the way that it goes in Hollywood. They were so desperate to get the guys working together again, and sometimes a pairing between two actors. The second time around is just as good or better. You look at Paul Newman and Robert Redford. They do Butch Cassidy in the late 60s, and then they do The Sting. But to their credit, they didn't force a third pairing. They tried. They talked about it for a long time, for a couple of decades at least. They didn't find anything worthy of their talents in tandem. And I just feel like Hollywood was so desperate to get Wesley and Woody in another film. There had to be something better than Money Train. And, this is a movie that is really only remembered because it's Jennifer Lopez's film debut, and she's the best thing about the movie. She's why you would watch it now, to see how a young actress, she wasn't a big singer yet, maybe she had done some, but the movie Selena was still a ways away. The actual singer had just died not long before. I'm pretty sure Selena was killed in 1995. But to see how Jennifer Lopez, in her film debut, is already registering so strongly. It wasn't just, yes, she's a very attractive, we know that, but it was the way that she was reading her lines, a very kind of natural style and screen presence, and that she didn't overplay smiling and flirting. It's a really solid performance. And that's why so many critics, even within the context of saying, this film's not good, they mentioned she's somebody to look out for. And it didn't really take her very long from this to start, registering and making people kind of take notice and say, wow, she's pretty impressive. Because Anaconda was about a year and a half later, and Selena, where certainly she had a lot of Oscar buzz for the performance that she gave as Selena. I mean, that was a really good movie. But Money Train is a missed opportunity, as I said. But it's still worth noting, because the buddy film is like part of the lifeblood of Hollywood. It is a bread and butter of Hollywood. The 1-2, one's a cop, one's a crook. In this case, one's a transit cop, the other's a transit cop. It just goes in a lot of different directions. It should have stayed focused on the issues between the Foster brothers and Woody Harrelson's disaster of a person trying to do something other than continue to go downhill. And, it is unfortunate because 95 is the only year of the 90s where I would say there are not that many, it has the least number of genuinely great films, in my opinion, of any other year of the 90s. I mean, you've got Apollo 13, you've got Braveheart, you've got Heat. I mean, I'm not that big a fan of Leaving Las Vegas, and I don't think Oliver Stone's Nixon is up to the level of some of his best work. It's a lot of entertaining movies like Batman Forever, right? Babe with James Cromwell, terrific. Toy Story, the original, really, really good. Money Train was a miss, and didn't really hurt the careers of Wesley and Woody. They continued to, in the case of Wesley, he continued the first Blade was still a few years away. And Wesley turned from this right into the People versus Larry Flint from the late great Milos Forman. And Woody is so good in the People versus Larry Flint. He was up for Best Actor, and if he had won, I would not have blinked. Who ended up winning in '96? Oh, he wasn't going to win. It was Jeffrey Rush for Shine, and the real winner should have been Tom Cruise for Jerry Maguire, because Jeffrey Rush is in a supporting role. It was not a lead performance. His character doesn't even show up. Well, not his character. He doesn't show up until the movie is more than half over. So technically, his performance is extraordinary in the manner of Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs. That's also not a lead performance, and he won lead actor. But Woody Harrelson's career did not dip. And 30 years later, Woody Harrelson is still a major player. He is a survivor in the manner of Michael Keaton, who has never not been a star. You want to talk about somebody that's been around forever and is still headlining movies, or at worst a second lead? Michael Keaton, Woody Harrelson. So Money Train, a somewhat happy 30th birthday to Money Train, released, I think it was actually November 22nd, 1995. Not successful with critics, not successful with audiences, but a film that is an interesting artifact of a time where you could make this sort of big action movie without any CGI. It's all practical effects and good stunt work. I just wish they had paid more attention to the story. It takes a lot of wrong turns, in my humble opinion. 22% on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, there are Stallone films that are lower than that I would argue are a lot better than this. I'll take The Specialist over this. I'll take Get Carter over this. I'll for sure take Assassins over this. But Money Train, a somewhat happy 30th birthday, and it's terrible that I can't remember the name of the filmmaker. It's just embarrassing. I keep thinking of John Badham and Harold Becker, but it's not either one of those guys. But it's somebody who made movies like that. John Badham, I think, did Nick of Time, which was released right around the same time. That's an interesting movie. It uses a concept of a film unfolding in real time, a la the later TV show 24. Yeah, Nick of Time, I'm almost 100% that was John Badham. But I just don't remember the name of the filmmaker of Money Train. And I apologize for that. And again, I'm recording. I'm not going to stop it just to get the name of the filmmaker. But Money Train, which stars Woody Harrelson, Wesley Snipes, Robert Blake, and a really great Jennifer Lopez in her film debut. This has been episode 651 of the Confessions of a Not So Dangerous Mind podcast. I'd like to thank you all so much for spending some of your Sunday morning here with me in New York. If you check out this episode on the YouTube channel, haven't done so already, please click like, subscribe, comment, share, turn on those notifications. Or if you catch this episode on the audio platforms such as Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, and the others in which we're hosted, same general rule applies. Click like, subscribe, share, and turn on those notifications. I'll be back with a new episode real soon. Until then, peace.